Good morning, everybody. Today is the 29th. May is almost over. I think it's pretty safe to say we have not had one dry day in May. So, daily blog. So, the topic that I'm a little standoffish about. Last night, Shannon, reply to her video, talked about what it means to have a hard life. That somebody had stated that you have no calluses on your hand, you have not had a hard life. So let's talk about it. We're open for discussion. First and foremost, I do not have calluses on my hands. I did 15 years in manual labor, okay? Slamming windshields, tore my neck up, tore my back up. I've spent 5 years sitting behind a computer using my brain instead of my back. Does that mean that I didn't have a hard life? Well, that's to be determined, right? That's what we're talking about. So let me just start off from the beginning. I was born November 11th, 1980 to a family who was, at best, struggling, living in poverty. I had no father. I had a single mother. My mother was abusive. I don't want to say abusive because I don't want to offend my mother, but in all reality, that's what it was. I love you, Mom. Sorry, whatever. You're a new mom trying to learn how to raise a man, and I had never done it, as I was the firstborn. Mom learned a lot of things from raising me. It wasn't easy at all. I was raised on the west side part of town, a shitty neighborhood. It's still a shitty neighborhood. You know what? I still live there. It ain't near as bad as it was when I was a kid, though, crime-wise. I grew up, we struggled. I remember times when Mom rented a house for us to live in. It was so small, we could only put our stuff in it. We couldn't sleep in there. We stayed with my aunt, which we did a lot, actually, as a kid. I remember getting up every day before school, walking to Aunt Nita's house just so we could eat something for breakfast. And we did that throughout the day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, it didn't matter. So my childhood was rough, okay? I had my first kid when I turned 17 years old. A month after I turned 17, my first child was born. I've been on my own since I was 15 years old. I left Mom's house and I never went back. When I left my mother's house, I stayed at a friend's house until I could get on my feet. I got with a woman who was a psychopath, who I had 4 children with, who was also abusive and cheated on me and used drugs. Did everything. I mean, I walked in on this chick 3 times with different guys in my house. I went through a spell to where I was a violent person. I was an angry person. My intention was to hurt people. I ran the streets. I joined a gang. I did all the ill shit that you could possibly think of. I did it to people. I fought people. I destroyed their property. I marked my neighborhood. I did whatever it was I had to do to get by. I sold drugs because nobody would hire a street kid like me. I had to do that to support my child, which is not something I'm proud of, but you do what you have to do. After that, I went through a divorce. Well, I don't even want to say a divorce. Well, before we get there, I left my kid's mom. I got married to another chick out of spite. Married her for a year, didn't have any children. A year later, got divorced, went back to my kid's mom, had another child. Life was hell going through all this. My pride, my dignity, everything was shattered, okay? Identification as to who I was not clear to me. One day I walked onto a parking lot of a glass shop and needed a job. And there was a man there that took me in. His name was Jim Gillespie. Here's where it gets tough for me. First, this man didn't want anything to do with me. And I was a street punk. That's exactly what he called me. You're just a street punk. Don't want you around. So he worked me to the bone in hopes that I would quit. What Jim didn't know is that from my childhood, I've worked for everything I've got. And if I had to work my fingers to the bone to get it, then by God, that's what I was going to do. And I worked, and I worked, and I worked. And no matter what he threw at me, I tackled it, and I got it done. Over time, this man became fond of me. Mind you, growing up, I had no father. I had no father figure. The men in my life were pieces of junk. Here's this man, a business owner, an entrepreneur, a salesman. He takes me under his wing and he honestly starts showing me how to make money the legal way. I don't want to say the right way because, like I said, he was a salesman. He could sell you anything. But he took me in. He took me off the streets, gave me somewhere to stay, showed me how to start a life worth living. Sadly, Mr. Gillespie passed away and I had to bury him. You know, if I was to ever say I had a father, it would have been that man. He taught me everything I know about how to be a man, how to be a father. You know what? He was a jerk sometimes, but you know what? He had to be. It was hard to get through this thick head of mine. When we put that man to rest, I knew then that things had to change, because if not, my life was going through turmoil. I had to step up to the plate and be what he wanted me to be, in the memory of him and what he's done for me. That part's hard. Okay, putting everything to the side, I appreciate what that man did for me. Pause the video for a minute. Alright, sorry about that. I gotta get some stuff together. So, Jim did for me something that nobody else ever did. He gave me a chance. He gave me a fighting chance in my life. It was the first time in my life I had a chance to make it. Mind you, I had been with Shallon at this point for a couple years, I do believe. And, you know, my life was already starting to change, but burying Jim, well, we didn't bury him, he was cremated, but putting Jim to rest honestly was the deciding factor of where my life was to go from there. My wife Shallon, to come into my life, she showed me things, as I've spoken about several times, and I don't want to get into them because that's a whole nother story, which I will cover one of these days in one of these vlogs. But now I live my life in a way that I try to help other people who deal with the same struggles that I dealt with, and I try to share my experiences with those people, so maybe they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe they won't repeat the same mistakes that I made. Even my children, I want them to learn from the mistakes of their father and not relive them. So did I have a hard life? No. I had a full life. My life was full of struggle, but my life was full of perseverance. I overcame all that. I used that as a foundation to make me who I am today. So some people may look at my life and they may say, man, Josh had it hard. But you know what? I didn't have it hard. I had it great. I learned how to deal with things at a young age, and how to be independent, and how to be a man because of the things that I went through in my life. I don't consider that hard. I consider that an obstacle that I overcame. And I couldn't be who I am today if I didn't go through those things. So I guess the question is, what is a hard life? I guess that depends on the perspective of the person who lived it. It doesn't matter what other people think. It doesn't matter what other people say. The fact of the matter is everything that we do and everything that we go through in our life, we either do one of two things. We either repeat it or we learn from it. And you should learn from it. You don't ever give up, people. You don't ever give up. If I'd have gave up, let me tell you something. If I'd have gave up all those times where I felt like I wanted to, I wouldn't be here today. I'd be in prison. I'd be dead. My children wouldn't have a father. I wouldn't be nothing, nobody. Because I would have gave up and I would have let the struggle take over me. I don't consider that hard. Just don't. There you have it. Guys, that's the daily vlog. That's my piece today, Shannon. I hope that answers your question from my perspective. Definitely is the goal for today's vlog. As always, everybody, thank you for watching. You can like my video, share my video if you want to. If you feel that this is an inspiration or maybe able to help somebody in your life, feel free to share it. You guys be safe out there. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.